sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
There's nothing we won't talk about. Again, who knows if we make moves, but the fun part is the last X amount of days talking about the moves that potentially could be there.
Is it fun, though, or is it just time-consuming and
no, it's awesome.
A lot of trades talked about probably just never happen?
Almost 98% of them don't happen. No, it's really fun. And it's, you try to get more than one team involved. It's really challenging. So many balls in the air. No, it's a blast. It's the only thing that's not fun is living in a hotel. Besides that, this part's awesome. It's a blast.
There he is. Look at that. Look at the chemistry. The chemistry between the Timberwolves, Pobo, Tim Connolly, and Darren Doogie Wolfson. Just
we text and talk more than people know, Phil.
Oh, my God. For anyone who gets that, congratulations. This is Reckless Speculation Thursday here for all who celebrate. Which means we bring in our friend Darren Doogie Wolfson from 5 Eyewitness News and the Scoop podcast for inside information about your favorite Minnesota sports teams. And one of my favorite things, we always have a little discussion, with Doogie before we turn the mics on. Okay, what do you got? Don't spoil it all, but what do you got? And I threw out, hey, Clint Capella, how about that? Well, Rudy Gobert, we'll talk about that later in the show. Dejounte Murray, there's some trade steam going on. Doogie says to me, I've got a name that you haven't mentioned yet. I think we should start there.
We can start there. Happy draft day. Happy, as importantly, happy Reckless Speculation Thursday. I'm so pumped I don't even have pants on right now. Thank God I'm home alone. Oh, that's not reckless speculation. Declan, if I move this, if I tilt the computer a certain way, trust me, that is confirmed. That is not speculation. All right, here's the new name. You ready for the new name? Because this will not excite you. Some of those names you just laid out, I would think would excite the fan base. This name would help the Wolves, but I don't think it's going to knock your socks off. Nerlens Noel.
Wow.
New York is exploring all sorts of different trade scenarios. New York, much like the Wolves, my sense is planting a lot of seeds. Noel's name has come up with many franchises. Nothing is imminent, at least as of early this morning, but that's another name that has come up at Mayo Clinic Square. Knicks center, Nerlens Noel, a really, really good rim protector.
Okay. What would the potential return be in such a trade?
Well, New York is looking to create some cap space. There is some interest in Jalen Brunson now that his dad, Rick, the former Wolves assistant, is once again on Tom Thibodeau's staff. New York seemingly has some interest in Kyrie Irving. Depending on how that Kyrie situation plays out, I will continue to say, if D'Angelo Russell gets traded, the Knicks are among teams that have some level of interest. Now, to me, the Knicks explore Kyrie, they explore Jalen, maybe even Tyus before they would go down the D'Angelo Russell path, but the Knicks are looking for a lead guard. We know that Gerson Rosas is in that Knicks front office. I'm just telling you, Leon Rose with his Creative Arts Agency connections, that's who represents D'Angelo Russell. I'm just saying, if D'Angelo Russell gets moved, the Knicks certainly would be a team I would keep an eye on. I will add on D'Angelo Russell, I was texting with a high-ranking league official yesterday, Eastern Conference team. I was asking this individual if the Wolves are exploring some potential trade scenarios with him, with his franchise, and I ran the idea of the Wolves potentially moving up from 19. Could they move up? Do you move up for the center from Memphis, for the center from Duke? And he said, my sense right now is the Wolves are most focused on finding a new home for D'Angelo Russell.
Wow. So fast.
Now, that could be all-encompassing, right? That could be, could the Wolves move up in the draft, find a taker for D'Angelo that way? But he said with his particular franchise, no, there's no steam on the Wolves engaging them specifically on their pick, but that his sense is just, canvassing the league, including having conversations with the Wolves front office, that moving D'Angelo is atop their list.
Okay, the phrase I'm about to utter, I never thought that I would, because he just, until you brought his name up, but I want to dive a little deeper on Nerlens Noel here, okay? So these other names of talk about like the best rim protector names that are being floated out there, the Rudy Goberts and the Clint Capellas. These guys, those are your last two NBA rebounding champions in terms of rebounds per game too, which is a problem the Wolves absolutely need to address in some form. But the problem with those guys is once you get to the playoffs, depending on the matchup, opposing teams have sort of figured out how to put Rudy Gobert in a spin cycle. If an opposing team can go small, your only counter move really is to just take a guy like that off the court. So it becomes kind of a tough chess match as you play some of the best teams in the NBA. Nerlens Noel is not anywhere near the same level player overall as a Clint Capella or a Rudy Gobert. So I just want to throw that out there. But he is one of the best defensive big men in the NBA. And he's kind of a 20 minutes per game player that if you needed to, and he makes $9 million a year this year and next year. So he can help you over an 82-game season, even though he is injury prone, and that's a huge problem too. But let's say he can help you over 50 or 60 games. And if you need to, against a smaller lineup, you don't feel terrible taking a guy that makes $30 million off the court for chunks, right? And you can maybe acquire Nerlens Noel, help fix some problems, and it wouldn't preclude you from making another big move for a wing player or a guard or somebody. So I think that's a really interesting path to fix a problem without necessarily handicapping yourself with a $30 or $40 million contract.
He would help. The issue is, do the Knicks say to Minnesota, okay, yes, we'll move you, Noel, but you also need to take Alec Burks, right? There may be some other pieces there. So my sense is, like, talks are not advanced with New York. I will reiterate what I told Judd on Tuesday, Phil. My sense is, now, it could all change with one new phone call, some new offer, but as we sit here today, as we sat there on Tuesday, Clint Capella to the Wolves, like, just, it's not happening. It's just not. Like, there's no movement on that front. Do I sense the Wolves have talked to Atlanta? 100%, so that's not false. The Wolves have shown some interest in Clint Capella. The Wolves are very open-minded to Karl Anthony Towns being a power forward, bringing in some sort of center. Miles Turner, 100%, is on the Wolves' radar. I would be concerned about his foot issues. I just would. It certainly seems like Indiana is willing to blow things up, though, that Malcolm Brogdon is going somewhere, whether it's tonight or in the coming weeks. Also, then, Miles Turner, an expiring contract, would also land somewhere, whether in the same package or elsewhere. I don't know if the Wolves have shown any interest in Malcolm Brogdon. I haven't necessarily heard that. We discussed, last Thursday, who would you prefer, Malcolm Brogdon or D'Angelo Russell? I said Malcolm Brogdon. I would rather have Brogdon. I would. Now, there are some injury concerns there as well. But just of the two, with this franchise, give me Brogdon over Russell. But I don't have a sense that the Wolves have engaged Indiana necessarily on Brogdon. But I do sense that they definitely have engaged Indiana on Miles Turner. Gobert, let me add on Gobert. With that contract, that's another one, I would be shocked. I have somebody that has strong ties to Utah. I'm just telling you, I would be blown away.
$40 million.
Yeah, I really would. I would be blown away if the Wolves acquired Rudy Gobert. Fun to talk about, and Tim Connolly, to me, Phil, he's got some Gerson Rosas in him where he's going to explore, all sorts of different scenarios. He is going to go big game hunting. Maybe that's led by Mark Lowry. Like, Mark Lowry is very open-minded to this front office going big game hunting, right? So I'm sure they've talked to Utah. I'm just telling you, though, I would be blown away if Rudy Gobert sometime in the coming weeks ends up here in Minnesota.
All right,
Judd, go.
I got a question. I want you to put together your reckless speculation, your inciting, and the fact that you are an NBA junkie, and tell me this. Give me your best reckless speculation scenario involving Tim Connolly and the Wolves for tonight. What is your best reckless speculation about what could, if everything comes together, and there's a convergence in the universe of Timberwolves-ishness with Connolly, what happens?
Well, I think there is going to be some action tonight, Judd, but it may just be minuscule. It may be them selling pick 50, that they have those 3 second-round picks, that the Lakers, the Suns, the Nets, the Heat, the Mavs, even potentially Utah, at least those 5, maybe 6 with Utah, those teams have interest in buying a second-round pick. Now, to me, the optics on selling a pick just aren't good. And there's 2 less picks in this draft. A couple teams lost second-round picks, so there are only 58 picks. Now, that means you can be maybe a little bit more aggressive in undrafted free agency, much like the Wolves were a couple years ago, landing Naz Reid. But, I just think the optics on selling a pick are not good. But that is something that they are going to discuss. I'm pretty sure they are going to get an offer, a monetary offer, to sell 48 or 50. Do they bite? It'll be 7 figures. Do they bite on that offer? Maybe they just bite on trading 48 or 50 for a second-round pick in 23 or 24. So it may just be something along those lines, Judd. But I'm telling you, they've had a number of wild trade discussions. I'm told they have engaged San Antonio on Dejounte Murray. Now, do I sense that's far down the road? No. As of last night, I didn't get the sense that anything was imminent. I really didn't. But they've engaged San Antonio. There are Dejounte Murray fans here. Dejounte Murray is a Clutch client. You think about the Clutch influence here in Minnesota with Anthony Edwards, with now Marquise Watts in the front office, used to work for Clutch. Plus, Murray is a really good player, so he would help. Now, the Spurs want an enormous package for him, so I don't know if there's necessarily a match there, but I can promise you there are Dejounte Murray fans here in Minnesota.
So interesting. You might be wondering, why would Greg Popovich trade a 25-year-old star young player who packs the stat sheet and is emerging into his prime? Well, he already did it in Kawhi Leonard. Different circumstance altogether, but I think Greg Popovich is very much willing to trade star players for whatever reason in the post-Tim Duncan era, so I was shocked to see that name even floating out there. Why would you not be building around a guy like that? But I don't know, if they're open for business, let's talk.
I would also build around Murray. I'm a big Murray fan. But if you look at the Spurs for the next few years, Greg Popovich at some point is going to retire. There's already buzz about Popovich retiring after this upcoming season, with Quinn Snyder sliding in as the next Spurs coach. That scuttlebutt is out there. But if you look at the Spurs, they have some intriguing young pieces. They have some draft capital, but really, where are they going? And is Murray an alpha, right? Now, hey, they could draft the alpha in the top 10 tonight. Maybe that guy they draft at pick 9 turns into their alpha in a year or two. But I'm just saying, if you look at the Spurs landscape for the next few years, are they really jumping over a lot of these teams in the Western Conference? So maybe they should take a step or two back, look more at competing at a high level, 24, 25, 26. So that would entail moving Murray at some point, whether it's this summer or maybe at the trade deadline in February.
Hey, I want to back up because we played the Tim Connolly clip off the top there, just showcasing the great chemistry between Darren and Tim. Tim, also a friend of the show now here. He came on and provided some of his favorite 90s comedies, movies, and now we're all good. So maybe it's too early to ask this question because he's literally only been in that office for a couple weeks. But what have you heard? He seems like such a humble, deflect credit guy. He literally just seems like a normal dude who eats wings and watches Happy Gilmore and just happens to be running an NBA front office for $8 million a year here. He just has a really interesting, laid back, down to earth personality. What have you observed and heard about him so far?
That's accurate. He'll sit down and have some wings and a beer. Multiple beers, right? He's that kind of guy. I will tell you, when the Wolves hired Gerson Rosas, there was some chatter about just be careful there, that there are some question marks. Now, a lot of that was from Dallas when he took that GM job in Dallas in 2013, then changed his mind a couple months later. But even out of Houston, some people saying, hey, Daryl Morey was happy to have him move on, right? So there was some of that, but I also heard from some other people saying, you'll really like Gerson, right? But I heard it both sides. I'm just telling you, I took the sample of many people that know Tim. I have not, Phil, heard one bad word about him. I just haven't.
Yeah.
I was texting with a former NBA league executive the other day that now just recently started a job at the Wasserman agency, just started there a couple weeks ago. He goes back many, many years, some scouting trips overseas where Tim was over there, when Tim worked for whether it was the Wizards or the Pelicans, so some overseas stories about this individual bonding with Tim, just all sorts of stories where he's a good dude, good family guy, good husband, right? Good dad. And I can just tell you, there's a bunch of Wolves people very excited that he's here.
By the way, Phil Mackey here for Bally Sports North. I did get a text from somebody who works with Tim now in the Timberwolves organization and said, Tim is big into pizza and beer. He's been on the hunt for the best pizza and wings in Minneapolis. Just a great guy. So if anyone has recommendations for the best pizza, wings, and beer, Surly, for maybe 2/3 of those things for sure. Do they have wings at Surly now?
I think they do.
Just pizza and beer for sure.
They got great.
Yeah, but the Malcolm Yards setup is what, a hop, skip, and a jump, right?
Okay.
Oh, I've done that before. Surly is far superior. I don't want to do my own work.
Yeah, but if you need to go get some wings, you literally just walk across the street.
But you got to do your own work there, and you gotta pour your own beer. I don't want all that. I want people doing the work for me. Like I wasn't put on this earth to do the work. So do you think the Wolves take a player at 19, Dukes, or do you think that pick ultimately does get moved tonight?
Well, I mean, Tim is open-minded to moving the pick, but as we sit here at 10:27 on draft day morning, I think they just sit there at 19 and make a selection.
Okay.
I was hoping that you would recklessly speculate a trade because that would have been far more fun. But
but here's also the issue. Chicago, right above them at 18, is talking about moving that pick. Atlanta at 16 is very open-minded to doing all sorts of different things, right? Charlotte has 2 picks in the top 15. They are open for business. Oklahoma City has 2 picks in the top 12. They are open for business with pick 12. So many teams are open for business. That's where it may be tough for the Wolves to move 19. But there are some teams like Milwaukee is in the mid-20s. I was told Milwaukee has checked in about, moving up. The Wolves, apparently, I've not heard this, but there was a national report that the Wolves have spoken with Cleveland about moving up to 14. So Cleveland allegedly has engaged some teams, or at least been listening to some proposals. I have not heard, though. I'm just telling you my own digging. I have not heard that the Wolves have engaged Cleveland about pick 14.
Speaking of open for business, Equity Partners is open for business. A new partner here on Score North. I'm Mackey and Judd and Purple Daily. So our guy Ryan, who we actually met at the Purple Daily draft party back in late April, he's a huge fan of the Vikes, Purple Daily, etc. And his company is Equity Partners, and they believe the house selling process should be 100% hassle-free. So what they really want to drill down on here, I guess we do on behalf of them, is the We Have program, which allows you to partner up with them. They'll fix your home before you put it on the market, okay? From simple fixes to full remodels, they'll help you get the most out of your home. And this might be the biggest benefit. You can move before you sell. That's the pain in the butt sometimes of timing it up and contingencies. You can put offers in on your next home and move non-contingent on the sale of your home currently, which is huge. And you can find out more at equitypartnersmn.com. equitypartnersmn.com. Also a shout out, boys, on this Reckless Speculation Thursday to our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. They've been around for over 100 years. Partners with the Timberwolves, too. They've been riding some ups and downs with the Pups, now on the way up. And you can find a full list of industries Federated protects and works with at federatedinsurance.com. Risk management tools and resources to maximize your business. Federated Insurance, where it's our business to protect yours. All right. If you have any other Wolf stuff, feel free to throw it out there. But we'd love to know how bad Byron Buxton's knee is, if you've heard anything.
Yes. So let me throw out some more Wolves notes, then I'll transition to Byron Buxton. Mo Bamba, restricted free agent, Orlando. Matt Lloyd, now in the Wolves front office, has the book on Bamba. I'm told as of this morning, nothing substantial in terms of any sort of sign and trade discussions, the Wolves and Orlando. I was asked last night on Twitter, hey, did the Wolves engage Detroit on Jeremy Grant? Jeremy Grant on his way to the Portland Trailblazers. I was told very, very casual dialogue. If you look at Grant, good player. I like the move for the Blazers. Not necessarily a fit here, though. Like, he's not a rebounder. You know, he wants to take a lot of shots. Like, I just don't know if Jeremy Grant fits with this roster. So Tim Connolly has a history with Jeremy from their days together in Denver, but the Wolves were never seriously in the mix to trade for Jeremy Grant. In the end, the Wolves had over 75 players in for draft workouts going back to mid-May, even before the Combine. They started to bring guys in. So They've done their homework. I don't know if any other franchise brought in as many players as they have. Now, they have 4 picks, right? Not every team has 4 picks. There are a lot of teams that don't have a pick, let alone 2 picks, 3 picks, like the Wolves' 4 picks. But the Wolves have done unbelievable homework on this draft. All right, on Byron Buxton, Royce's tweet is confirmed. He did have his knee drained. I am told, gentlemen, this is not the first time he has had his knee drained. He is not in the lineup today. There is a belief, as of right now, that he does not need an IL stint. That even though the knee was drained, he does not need to go on the injured list.
I was told it's very much also a day-to-day proposition. He comes in some days and it feels good, and then he'll come in and it feels bad. And so
that's it. Yep.
But the problem is this, and it by definition, that's what chronic is, and that's the problem. Like, you never know. So if the Twins make the playoffs, we could very well get to game 2 of a series, and he comes in and that knee is shot that day, and he can't play. Now, the Twins will take heat, but guess what? Last night, he couldn't play. Like, I was told he could barely move. So
it was not a scheduled day off.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, they had a day off on Monday. He wasn't scheduled to be off for a Wednesday game, relatively big game. We can debate how big a game is in June, right. Any game in June. But, you know, you're playing the first place team or the team you're tied with as of last night for first place. Byron Buxton was going to be in the lineup if he was okay to play. He was not okay, thus was not in the lineup last night. But also, let me stress, like, for him to do what he's done this month when the knee has flared up is so darn impressive. And I had at least one buffoon on Twitter last night in my feed suggest that Byron Buxton is soft. That guy with that take is a moron. I don't know him personally, so I don't know if he's overall a moron.
Yes.
That take, though, how about a better way to phrase it? That take is moronic. I wish people knew what Buxton went through on a daily basis just to be able to play some of these games he has played in earlier this month, putting up the numbers he's put up. Trust me on this. Byron Buxton is as tough a guy as the Twins have in that clubhouse.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, they've done a good job just managing this. He has not hit the IL yet. He's tied his career high in home runs, and he's played in, 65, 70% of the games. This is about as much as you can probably hope for at this point. I think my question is, does this get worse as the years go by? Is it something that just, it happens to be bad right now, and maybe in a month he's going to be fine for the rest of the season? I guess we don't know how this is going to progress is my biggest question.
Well, and that question is going to linger for a while, right, Phil? We just don't know. It's hard not to wonder, though, if some sort of new surgical procedure will be needed. That if they go in and do something in the winter.
Yeah. That's bad news. Dukes, we didn't get to this earlier in the week, but the Vikings, and I believe you reported this on the Scoop podcast, the Vikings were sniffing around potentially adding depth at defensive tackle, and the name that emerged was Ndamukong Suh. What can you tell us about Ndamukong Suh, who it sounds like is leaning towards Vegas, but then the Vikings definitely did come up as a team that's talked to his agent a few times?
Yeah, apologies, Judd, that I didn't bring this up on Tuesday when we went back and forth. I recorded a new Scoop podcast on Sunday, episode 390. It's got David Roddy, who's going to get drafted tonight. A long conversation with Chet Holmgren's parents. Chet Holmgren likely to go number 2 tonight to OKC, the Minneapolis native, former Minnehaha Academy star. Kerwin Walton Jr. also on that podcast, talking about why things didn't work out with the Gophers. So I highly recommend, very biasly, right? But check out Scoop Podcast episode 390. But among my notes on Sunday was the Vikings are exploring bringing in some beef on the defensive line, the interior of the defensive line before training camp. I didn't necessarily mention Ndamukong Suh's name. His name then emerged earlier this week. Yes, the Vikings have checked in. I don't sense anything is far down the road. His wife has some ties here. In fact, somebody told me to check on his wife being from here.
She was born here.
Yeah, so, and he's been in town here multiple times. In fact, somebody told me he's in town right now, or was in town earlier this week. Nothing tied to a visit with the Vikings, but he spends legitimate time here. So from that standpoint, the Vikings could be intriguing. But yeah, Judd, my sense is if the Raiders and the Vikings both make offers, that he would end up in Vegas, not here in Minnesota.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, Dukes, empty the rest of your scoop bag here for us. What else you got?
All right, well, back to the Twins. Top pitching prospect Matt Cantorino is in Arlington, Texas today. Dr. Meister. It is another checkup. Dr. Meister did Kenta Maeda's Tommy John surgery, did Chris Paddock's Tommy John surgery. So Dr. Meister is going to look at the MRI results. We should have some clarity on Cantorino's situation in the near future. Don't necessarily know that he needs Tommy John, but like you hear Dr. Meister and it's just, Like it's hard not to think about all the Tommy John surgeries that Dr.
What happened
Meister
to
has
Dr.
done.
James Andrews? Is he out of the TJ business?
I don't know. That's a good question, but it seems like Dr. Meister is now the guy. I'll have to check on Dr. Andrews. I don't know on Dr. Andrews, but I know Dr. Meister is
Where's Frank
is
Joe?
the guy. Yeah, well, that's another one.
He's like 90.
And and then there's like a finger or shoulder guy, or there's some popular guy in New York that a lot of the Wolves end up seeing. And
Yeah,
did Neil Hunter go out there and see that guy? Maybe he's a neck guy too.
Well, if you put in about 10 good years as a finger and shoulder guy, then you graduate to knee and elbow guy too. You kind of move up the list.
But yeah, it's like it's a group of like 6 or 7 doctors across the country, right? That pretty much treat all these professional athletes. So Dr. Meister is one of those. So we'll keep an eye on how that doctor visit goes with Cantorino. But like that's part of the issue. Phil, I saw your tweet that it's great what the Twins have done so far. A lot of cool storylines, but it's now on that front office to find a way to bring in multiple pitchers. Like I would say 2 relievers and a starter.
Agreed.
But minimum 2 relievers. But like, who exactly are you trading that has all sorts of value right now? Cantorino, medical question marks. They've got a prospect, Rodriguez, an outfielder, that was tearing up the Florida State League in Fort Myers. Well, guess what? Tore his meniscus, needs surgery. He's out multiple months. You look at Austin Martin. He was out of the lineup recently, minor injury. He's back in the lineup now, but he's not doing anything, right? So, like, just go up and down the list. Like, I'm not trading Josh Winder. Josh Winder should be back in the Twins' bullpen, maybe even their starting rotation in the next week or so. Looked okay last night in another rehab start for the St. Paul Saints. I'm not moving Josh Winder, so I'm just saying, like, who exactly are you moving?
Would you trade Larnach or Kirilloff?
I would not trade Kirilloff. Probably wouldn't on Larnach. I guess, does Matt Wallner, the Forest Lake native, who's tearing it up in Double-A Wichita, he should be up with St. Paul right now. Like, he's 24 and a half years old. I don't know why Matt Wallner is rotting away in Wichita. But, like, he's going to strike out a lot. There's some defensive question marks there, so ultimately is he just a DH? But there's a lot of power there. So maybe Matt Wallner has some appeal. Spencer Steer, who's tearing it up at AAA, maybe projects more as a second baseman or third baseman, not a shortstop. So they have some guys. I don't want to paint this incredibly bleak picture that they don't have anybody. They have some guys, but like I'm saying, if you're engaging the Reds on Castillo or the A's on Montes, how are you trumping these other teams' offers?
The A's apparently, the A's, in some of the reports the last 2 months, want a major league ready player who maybe has even played in the major leagues. So my guess is they would want a Kirilloff or a Larnach.
Well,
With,
I would
5
be
years of team control.
Yeah, I would be open-minded to moving Jose Miranda if he would have appeal to the A's.
That's another one. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't move Kirilloff. Like, I have a write that down going back to 2019 or 2020 that swing one day is going to win a batting title. I'd like to see that happen here. That's a very bold proclamation, but I'd like to see that happen here, not elsewhere. So I'm certainly not trading Kirilloff. You might be able to convince me on Larnach. If it's Larnach and a lot more, no for Montes. If it's Larnach plus a mid-level prospect for Montes, you could probably sell me on that because I think Celestino has a chance. He's not going to wow you, but Celestino has a chance. Then I'm, mentioning how Wallner should be up at AAA. Wallner could be up with the Twins at some point before the year is over or next year. So he could also potentially help in the outfield. And to me, you can always, find a corner outfielder. Like if you need a corner outfielder, you can find those guys. So if it was Larnach plus you name the Twins number 9, number 10, number 11 prospect, and you somehow get Frankie Montes, I 100% would do that deal.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
But I don't know if Oakland does that, right? Like, to me, Oakland can do better than that.
No.
I think they can.
Judd, what were you going to say?
I said that bullpen needs immediate help. You can't continue to do like it's not a struggle. It's not like Pagan's going to become great. At his best, he's sort of solid, but it's always a tightrope act. So, like, if you're not going to do something, you are flushing the Carlos Correa year down the toilet.
Yeah,
that's exactly it, right? No guarantees Correa is here next year, so you need to go for it this year, right? And like, they absolutely can still win the division. Like, I've seen too many social media posts, very emotional social media posts after the last 2 games, the 2 losses to Cleveland, saying season over, Cleveland's going to run away with the Central. Come on. Like, any number of examples. Where was Atlanta this time last year? I can go up and down the list, and I'm not suggesting the Twins are winning the World Series, but the Twins are still very much in this. I thought in mid-March the Twins would play meaningful games in September. I still feel that way. Now, do I think the Twins can compete in the playoffs with the Yankees or the Astros? Right now, no. As currently constructed, no. But that's where it's on the front office to do something. I think they need multiple trades, right? They need to do something by August 2nd.
Yeah. There he is. Reckless Speculation Thursday. Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News sports team and also the Scoop podcast, bringing inside info about Minnesota sports teams. Good stuff, Doogs.
All right, boys. 2 more quick notes. Anthony Barr, Dallas Cowboys interest. Kyle Rudolph, Tampa Bay Buccaneers interest. Caleb Evans, the Vikings 4th-round pick out of Missouri, the cornerback. Standard contract. The signing bonus is around $760,000.
There it is. All right, Dukes. Thanks for coming in, man.
See you. Bye.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it.
Enjoy tonight. See ya.
Love it.
Speculation.
All right, let's